Hello, it's Katrina here from Katrina Froome Naturopathy. I'm just re-recording this webinar because last night I had issues with actually finding the record button. Last few webinars that I held, the record button came up to remind me. So anyhow, so I'm re-recording today, and this is part one of my webinars on what is perimenopause and the common symptoms to look out for. So I found this little quote yesterday, and that it's on menopause and postmenopause begin with endings, which is perimenopause, and is such an empowering time of our lives. And I think it resonates quite nicely for me, and it should for other women as well, because it's something not to be scared of or to fear or anything like that, just to really embrace and look forward to the new changes that are happening in our lives. So, yeah, so it's a beautiful quote. So just a little bit about me. I've been in the healthcare industry for over 22 years. I started out in aged care, and now I'm solely working as a naturopath in my own clinic, and I have been doing so for the past 10 years in my home-based clinic. I have a Bachelor of Health Science, and I also am a SIBO doctor approved naturopath, and I've been approved through Dr. Narala Jacoby's program for over 5 years. It's probably closer to like 8 years, but she's got the approved practitioner program happening now, which is really, really good. So as a naturopath, I help women who have hormonal imbalances and digestive issues such as IBS, which is your irritable bowel syndrome, or SIBO, which is your small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And the symptoms for both are very, very similar. They all play into each other. And SIBO goes that little bit further and has lots of other aspects to the causes and the root causes and why it's affecting so many people. And yeah, so I help them to feel well again and just get that energy back and their digestive health back and everything else that they've come to see me for, just to make them feel great. I also have 3 daughters. They're all in their 20s, and I have been married for just over 30 years. And I also have a little clinic dog. She's my grand dog, named Lilo, and she loves coming in and meeting and greeting clients and seeing our regulars. And yeah, just loves people. I also love cooking and creating new recipes for myself and family, and trialing them for my clients as well. And I also make recipe and meal plans for my clients based on their results, with either through the SIBO biphasic diet or through their hair biocompatibility testing, which is one of my big ones that I love to use in clinic. So it takes a lot of guesswork out of what foods and products they need to include and what ones they need to avoid for 6 months. So getting into tonight's topics, I'm talking about naturopathic terminology for our life cycles and transition. What is perimenopause? What is menopause and what the differences are? Hormonal imbalances, sleep issues, digestive issues such as IBS and SIBO once again, food intolerances or sensitivities, and rewiring of our brain, and how naturopathy can support you. So our terminology for our life cycles and transition, it's a beautiful terminology, I feel. Starting off with spring, and that's at the beginning of menarche, which is your first periods, to our mid-20s, which is classed as puberty or spring. Then we go into summer, and summer is approximately from the ages of 28 to 40, which are classified as our reproductive years. And then we move into autumn, which is the year we're still menstruating, but things are changing. And this happens from mid-40s to the mid-50s, and it can actually happen, some women experience, still having cycles at 57, which is quite impressive, I have to say. And yeah, and by that time, we see many changes, not only to our periods, but other hormones and lots of different things happening with our bodies. And it's also a new way of thinking. Once we go into menopause and postmenopause, it's called the winter. And usually medically, the year is from 51 years onwards. And it symbolises the end of our menstruative years. So, yeah, so it's a beautiful way of looking at our life cycles. But also after winter, there's another little aspect that comes back into play, and it's the second spring. So it's all about the new beginnings, postmenopausal, and yeah, just embracing those changes, and that's so there's so many things are happening, positive things, and that as well in our lives. So what is perimenopause? Perimenopause is the natural transition into menopause, and it can start in your late 30s and continue into your mid-50s. As I've mentioned, it's known as our autumn years. Our hormones, estrogen and progesterone, are behaving like crazy teenagers. So that sort of like refers to a second puberty, because it's very much like our first puberty. And just think how long that took for things to settle down, and that, you know, it's 10, 15 years in some cases. So yeah, so it's our second puberty. Most women will experience changes to their periods. Sometimes they get a lot heavier with lots of clots and flooding, that kind of thing. Weight gain, sleep's a bit of an issue, memory, low libido, dry skin, vaginal dryness, joint and muscle pain. Anxiety and mood swings can really get out of control and intensify at times too. And then we get, well, in amongst all that, we get the hot flushes and night sweats. Autoimmune diseases can flare up or can begin. A good example is Hashimoto's disease, which is your underactive thyroid that turns into, over a number of years and situations, can turn into Hashimoto's disease, or the opposite to Hashimoto's is Graves' disease, where you've got a hyperthyroid. Some women will have a lot of changes, and some will have just a few changes and seem to breeze through perimenopause without any issues. What is menopause? So menopause begins once you have had 12 months without having a period. And in some cases, some women will go, 6 months to 8 months without a period, thinking, oh yes, I'm in menopause. And then something stressful will happen, like, change of a job, or a change in relationships, moving house, a death in the family, or, those big life-changing events, and that'll bring a period back on again. So then you've got to start back again. And yeah, so it's 12 months totally without a period. And then, as I mentioned, it's referred to as our winter years. Some women will skip perimenopause and go into menopause, and that can happen due to genetics, or you have your medically induced menopause, which is through hysterectomies happening, or cancer treatment. So chemotherapy and radiation can really wreak havoc on your hormones. It has its place. I understand that. But also it can put you into medically induced menopause. So your body doesn't actually get used to that build up and the lead up to menopause, so it happens quite quickly in some cases. You can still experience symptoms such as hot flushes and some brain fog, poor sleep still, weight gain, generally around your tummy, joint and muscle aches and pains. There's a more likely chance of having UTIs, which are urinary tract infections, urinary incontinence, or like bladder leakage. Cardiovascular health is another big one to really be mindful of, because cardiovascular health is so important, because heart attacks is still the #1 cause of death in women over 45. And also looking at hypertension, which is your high blood pressure, and your higher cholesterol levels. And as we age, our cholesterol levels do increase, but we don't want it, to go too crazy. And it can also, both of these can actually be treated nicely through dietary changes and some supplements just to help get you nice and balanced again. Bone health's really important too. You should be looking at that in perimenopause as well with your strength training and your resistance training. But once you've gone into menopause, you still really need to keep on top of that, as osteoporosis and osteoarthritis can really occur and cause lots and lots of, extra pain and brittle bones, and you've got more chance of having fractures if you fall as in your 70s or 80s, and, really having a long recovery. And also, some women will choose to have hormone replacement therapy because their perimenopausal, menopausal symptoms are, just out of control. So the hormone replacement therapy can be in the form of a patch or a tablet or the cream or a gel. The common ones are with the gels. There'll be an estrogen gel, and they'll be applied vaginally because the women have got such dry and they're so uncomfortable, and the pain and that with their dry vaginas and their dry skin. So that's quite a normal medication for women to be prescribed. With naturopathy, we do actually have some nice alternatives, nice healthier alternatives. Okay, so hormonal imbalances. Our big one's our thyroid, as the thyroid controls the speed of our metabolism and is the most important hormone to check. And the first sign of a thyroid imbalance is usually weight gain, and what used to work for you diet-wise and exercise-wise just isn't working anymore. So that's a really good key sign to get the thyroid checked. And medically, you'll go and see your GP and you'll organise a TSH, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone, but that doesn't give us an idea as to what's going on behind the scenes. We're needing a complete thyroid panel, so that sort of like checks for your T3, your T4, your reverse T3, your thyroid antibodies, and it also gives us an insight into whether or not your thyroid's, you do actually have Hashimoto's, or whether it's more on the grave side of things as well. So that's really important. Insulin is another important hormone that really likes to show us a little bit of extra love during this time of our lives. It's a hormone, we do need our insulin as it pulls the sugar into the cells for energy. So anyone that's experienced low energy, you know that we really do need some insulin and have our glucose balanced nicely. So with insulin, many people with weight issues will also have some level of insulin resistance, and this makes weight loss a lot harder, and sugar cravings can really increase during this time as well. And also women that are still menstruating, they can actually have PCOS or polycystic ovary syndrome come into play in their 40s and 50s. And this can be just something natural, but it's more to do with your insulin resistance. Also a little bit of hormones, definitely, other than insulin, are coming into play there as well, like your testosterone. But it's more, the number one thing with PCOS is usually your blood sugar levels. And also hormonal acne. So women can, have beautiful skin through their 20s and 30s, and then once they hit their 40s, the hormonal acne will make an appearance again, and that's also linked in with your insulin. Metabolic balance and type 2 diabetes as well as something to watch out for. And these two conditions develop over time, so it doesn't just happen overnight. It's a lifestyle thing and can definitely be changed, seeing your naturopath, changing with some supplements and some dietary changes as well, just to give you that lovely support. Estrogen, we need our estrogen, and estrogen when it's out of whack, will cause the hot flushes, night sweats, the tender breasts, low iron as well, fluid retention, some edema, and that's like in your feet and your ankles. So like you might get your cankles or have trouble putting your shoes on at a certain time of the day, like mainly after lunch in some cases and that sort of thing. Painful periods as well, heavy periods, fibrocystic breasts, and then the estrogen links in with depression and the intensifying anxiety that I mentioned earlier, like it just is quite out of control. Progesterone affects, when it is low, it does affect our sleep, our anxiety, mood changes, and gives us irregular periods and a lot lighter period as well. So if you're used to having, normal periods, and they instead of going heavy and flooding, they're sort of like only lasting 1 or 2 days and they're really light, then that's a good sign that the progesterone's really, really low. Looking at sleep issues, this is a really big one that affects many women during our perimenopausal years. And it's all to do with our estrogen and progesterone levels fluctuating, which lead to changes in our cortisol levels and our serotonin metabolism in the body. So cortisol and serotonin both help to regulate the body's sleep cycle. So these changes will impact your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. Also, with the ability to fall asleep and to stay asleep, that also links in with our calcium and magnesium levels. So if they're out of whack as well, as in they're too high or they're too low, that will also contribute to you not sleeping, because we need our calcium to fall asleep and we need our magnesium to stay asleep. And a nice easy way to test that out is through one of the tests that I offer in clinic. It's the HTMA, so it's the hair tissue mineral analysis. So it checks all our essential minerals and then it looks at our toxic metals as well, and it gives us a beautiful idea as to what's really going on in the body. And it's really non-invasive. All I need is a hair sample with that one. So yeah, so with cortisol, it's triggered by stress, and the more stress, the more cortisol. So this disrupts all our other hormones because it's all linked in with our adrenals and our endocrine system. So it does link in with our thyroid issues, the weight gain, the high blood pressure, blood sugar imbalances, exhaustion and burnout. So when you get into that exhaustion and burnout, you're looking at, long period of time, chronic stress and cortisol levels being, running tight and wired kind of thing. So your cortisol levels are running over time and trying to keep things all nice and balanced. And that's when people will come into clinic and they'll say, I think I've got chronic fatigue, or I'm so exhausted, I've just got no energy. And that's because their cortisol levels are out of whack as well. So there's nice testing that I can do for that. And there's nice support, herbal support along with dietary changes to support the cortisol levels as well. With your melatonin, if it takes longer than 15 minutes to fall asleep, so you're laying in bed, you're tired, but you just can't get to sleep, your melatonin may be low as well. And I have found over the years that people that have been prescribed the pharmaceutical version or the synthetic melatonin, that it works maybe for a couple of nights, but then they're not getting enough sleep. It just doesn't seem to do the trick. I do have a couple of natural melatonin products that I do recommend for my clients that don't sleep well, and it seems to do the trick, but it's only for a certain period of time, like maximum 6 months, and then we need to look at, while we're working on that during that 6 months, we need to look at other reasons why you're not sleeping. Digestive issues. Estrogen and progesterone rise and fall erratically, which can cause digestive issues such as IBS, which is your irritable bowel syndrome, to flare up during this transition into menopause. The imbalances in your gut, such as SIBO, leaky gut, just dysbiosis, or just poor absorption of your macronutrients and your micronutrients will actually contribute to a higher rate of digestive issues. Also, by the time you get into your 40s and 50s, you've probably been on, antibiotic use over a period of time, long-term use of pharmaceuticals such as birth control, pain relief, PPIs, which is your proton pump inhibitors, and they're really popular with the GPs prescribing that for people that have got reflux. And they work beautifully to settle things down, but then they shouldn't be used long term either, because they do so much damage to your digestive tract. Statins, which are prescribed for higher cholesterol levels, they can contribute to, in the long term, if you're on them, in your 60s and 70s. There's a lot of research out there that they do actually contribute to falls in the elderly. So you really need to, look at your cholesterol levels and treating that in, more diet-wise. Fish oils, there's a lot of studies out on the benefits of fish oils, the omega-3s, in helping to reduce your cholesterol levels as well. And it's also really good for heart health and for your brain as well. Antidepressants and antipsychotics, all those sorts of drugs as well, contribute to poor digestive health. And if you've ever had cysts, like cysts on your ovaries, or last night one of the ladies mentioned she had cysts on her gallbladder years ago, and that can contribute to, that's a good sign that you've got digestive issues like leaky gut or dysbiosis. Fibroids and polyps are another sign that there's something just not right happening in your digestive system. Skin conditions, acne, rosacea can really flare up in your 40s and 50s. Eczema and psoriasis is another autoimmune condition. So with your skin conditions, they're usually the last resort with coming out, is to say, yeah, there's something going on. It's kind of like the onion. You're starting to peel off the layers, and you find that, yes, there is definitely the digestive issues, and that's why it's coming out in your skin and showing up on your skin. Then there's your infections, like viral infections, so glandular fever, which is the Epstein-Barr virus that causes so many health issues. And with viruses, you can't actually clear them from your body, but you can keep them at a nice safe level that they're not flaring up anymore, like really reduce the load. Also, viral infections like Ross River virus is another one that I see regularly in clinic. Also, your herpes simplex 1 and 2, so whether people are coming in, they've got the, reoccurring cold sores or genital herpes, that also can affect your thyroid, also digestive issues, anxiety, your nervous system. It just plays havoc on your body. Bacterial infections like your SIBO, for example, or some of your parasites. Fungal infections, so that'll be like your candida, and systemic candida can, show up in your sinuses. It can show up as brain fog. It can show up as, fungal nails, toenails, athlete's foot, or just reoccurring thrush. It's really, can be treated naturally as well. But yeah, it's once it spreads, it's quite a tricky one, and it flares up, in the heat and the humidity. And if you've got a craving for all those white foods, that's generally a good sign that there's something fungal and candida going on. Also, mold infections. So you may not even know that you've got a mold infection. You might be working in a workplace or living in a home that's been treated previously for mold, and there's no, evidence on the walls or anything like that, but it's what's happening behind the walls and the ceiling and that sort of thing. So that's something to be mindful of, especially with Brisbane, with the amount of floods that we've had over the last 10 years, and our humidity. And I think it was just last year with all the floods that we had, everybody had mold outbreaks, growing on their curtains, their blinds, places where you've never, experienced mold growth. It was growing. So perfect spot, Brisbane, for mold overgrowth. Also, low stomach acid. So we're wanting our stomach acid to have a pH of about 2. But a lot of the time people will have low stomach acid, and all of the above can contribute to having low stomach acid, and that's why you're getting the reoccurring infections and that sort of thing. So we're wanting to get our stomach acid levels up. Also, a slow transit time. That's also a big one because it keeps all the toxins in your system. And that's a good sign of the slow transit time is constipation, and even fast transit time. So if you're opening your bowels, a few more than 3 or 4 times a day, and it's loose, then that's a problem too, because you're not absorbing your nutrients, and you're getting that, and that's leading into dysbiosis and your poor absorption, poor malnutrition happening there as well, and leaky gut. So a lot to think on with the digestive issues as well. And the digestive issues lead into your food intolerances. And the big ones that I see in clinic are histamine or mast cell activation. And that's like your dry, your itchy skin, like hives, people that are getting hives all the time, headaches and migraines. Vertigo is another sign that there's a histamine issue. Brain fog, loose bowels, and sinus infections. So histamine, and a good sign that you do have a histamine intolerance is if you're having your leftovers. So if it's a meat dish, so like you made your casserole, slow cooked meal the night before, and you've made enough for lunch the next day and the day after, and by then the histamine is actually fermenting away, even though it's in the fridge. And then you get the bloat after you've eaten. You get the bloating, and you've got to race off to the toilet because you've got loose bowels. That's a really good sign that there's a histamine intolerance. Also, if you're eating something like you're having your coffee and you're getting the red necks and the red face, or the burning sensation, even with wine, some alcohols you can experience that as well. Histamine is also, with the mast cell activation, is also linked in with SIBO. So that can be an underlying cause of why you've got SIBO as well. Oxalate intolerance. So they're mainly for people that are more susceptible to kidney stones or having the reoccurring UTIs, which are your urinary tract infections, even the candida infections. Also, in regards to vaginal health, people that get the vaginitis, like that really inflamed, or vaginosis is another one. That can be linked in with oxalate sensitivity as well. A lot of women will come in and say, look, I used to be able to have milk in my coffee, now I've got to go lactose free, or I can't even have that. I've got to go for my nut milks, and I don't particularly like that. Or I love my cheese, but my cheese doesn't love me anymore. Lactose is a big one where there's changes with the hormones, and also with your gluten intolerance. So both of these will increase due to the hormonal changes, and it's mainly due to our lovely estrogen levels, so playing havoc. So in some cases, some women will find that, they can tolerate yogurt, but they're just not tolerating, as I've mentioned, the cheeses or the milk in their coffees or anything like that. So, and the estrogen levels will be, contributing to the leaky gut, and it's also playing havoc on our digestive enzymes. So as we age, we naturally decrease with our digestive enzymes. So it's really nice to add foods in that are natural digestive enzymes, like your pineapple and your papaya, and also some global to check your radishes. What else? And even sweet potato. So that's another nice addition as well. So rewiring of our brain. So perimenopause is known as the rewiring or the recalibration of our brain. And this was brought to my attention. I was at a webinar, no, a seminar pre-COVID, and and Lara Bryden was talking about how it's really important to look at our brains and support our brains through this rewiring and recalibration. And it doesn't just happen overnight. It can take up to 4 or 5 years for this recalibration to happen. So really supporting our brain health through this transition. And a sign with that is that our brains are rewiring is brain fog or just forgetfulness. And you'll be talking about something, or you might be at work doing a presentation, or you're a teacher teaching the class, and all of a sudden you just cannot think for life what was coming up next. So that's a really good sign that there's a bit of rewiring and recalibrating happening there. So it is a form of cognitive dysfunction as well with brain fog. And yeah, it's caused by the fluctuations of estrogen and progesterone and the follicle stimulating hormone levels in the body. So with that sort of thing, I usually prescribe a really good magnesium powder, which has your taurine in there, your glycine, and then you can add some other amino acids in there as well, like carnitine. You can also add in one of the mushrooms like lion's mane, add that into the mix, and that's just a really beautiful support for the brain. And you keep doing that, it's not just a couple of months, but you're really needing to get in there and support yourself. And I do make up some little mixtures and that in clinic. We need the healthy levels of glucose, which is your GLUT1, to cross the blood-brain barrier to support brain health. Estrogen assists brain cells to use glucose for energy. As estrogen drops, it causes an energy crisis while it's rewiring as well. So research has found that it can be like a 25% drop in the energy and activity of the brain. So that's where we're needing, to get in there and give that support, and with those supplements too. And a really healthy diet, anti-inflammatory diet's a really good one, because all of this is due to inflammation and really needing to support the gut-brain axis. So looking at the insulin resistance, making sure that you do exercise, which is your strength training and also your cardio workouts. Also, even if you're not able to do that on a regular basis, just getting outside and having a nice walk in nature is really good too. Or some people like bike riding or jogging, that kind of thing. So things that are just going to bring your inflammation down. So and also having a healthy microbiome. So that doesn't just mean a healthy digestive microbiome. So we're wanting that ultimately, but also an oral microbiome, and also a really healthy vaginal microbiome as well. And I'll be talking more about that in part 2 of my next webinar, because it's really going to be focusing on those areas. And also a healthy diet. Mediterranean diet's really highly researched to support perimenopause, but not everybody likes the Mediterranean food. So I like to work out what my clients do like to eat and work around what they can incorporate and what they need to leave out of their diet as well. So, okay, so we're now up to how naturopathy can support you. So following on from that sentence, this is me doing my SIBO breath test quite a few years ago now. And anyone that's got digestive issues, I do like to test for SIBO. So we know whether or not it's, we've got SIBO as our underlying issues with our gut. If it's not SIBO, it'll be something else needing support with our large intestine, or it could even be like your fungal overgrowths and that sort of thing, and parasites and that. So it's not SIBO and you're not getting results, you know, a few months down the track, I do actually like to organise a stool test for my clients to see what else could possibly be going on and rectifying it that way. This other test here is me doing, I've done my hair biocompatibility test. Now I'm on my third one with this and I just love it. I do like to prescribe that for people that aren't necessarily my SIBOs, but anyone with IBS or hormonal imbalances, just low energy, that sort of thing. And a lot of the time it is foods that you're eating a lot of that's contributing to these symptoms too. So it's a 6-month program, and what it does, it tests over 600 supermarket foods and health food products and supplements as well. It also tests your coffees, your teas, all your like your popular breads, your wraps, your flours, nuts. It also looks at all your fruits and veggies, your berries, your seafood and your meats. And also it does actually look into alcohol too. So whether you like to have, you know, keep a social drink at the weekend, you might find you can't have your white wine, but you can have red wine, or you can't have your vodka, but you can have your gin and tonic or something like that. So it does give you the healthy alternatives for your body with that report. Also, the other tests that I really like to order and that for my clients are the complete thyroid test, because that really gives a good idea and indication of what's going on there, especially if you've got a history of thyroid issues and a family history of thyroid issues too. I can organise blood tests through the clinic, and the complete thyroid test is a blood test. The next one is urine test. So if you're, you know, late 30s, early 40s, and even late 30s, and you're wanting to fall pregnant, do organise a Dutch hormone test, and that looks at, you know, what hormones are out of balance and how we can support you and get them balanced so that you can hopefully fall pregnant. There's a really good success rate with the Dutch testing. Also with the Dutch test, you can also look at not just your hormones, but you also can add in your cortisol test as well, and that's a saliva test, and that's done on a 24-hour period. So it really gives a good idea of what's going on there with your sleep and, you know, your awake cycles. Also, another urine test that I like to prescribe is a organic acids test. So that looks at your candida overgrowth. It looks at some of your bacterial issues. It doesn't test for SIBO, but it does look at other pathogens that are lurking there as well. It also looks at your Krebs cycle, which is your energy cycle, and what could potentially be, you know, out of whack there. And it also looks at neurotransmitters. So it's a really comprehensive test as well, but gets some really good results, especially for people that, you know, have been going to different, you know, practitioners or different specialists over the years, and they're not getting the answers. The oats usually does give the answers that we're looking for, or even, you know, the complete thyroid panel can also give us a good idea. Also, for my clients, I generally, like 99% of the time, will make up a herbal formula tailor-made for them. So treating the root cause and, you know, getting, so it's not a one-size-fits-all herbal formula. I like to mix it around a little bit to support my clients, and generally they taste pretty good. So I don't put the really bitter ones, but I do that in a capsule form, so it's a little bit more compliant for my clients. And I also do meal plans and recipes created based on the SIBO biphasic diet, which is your SIBO treatment, and also your results for your compatibility tests. So there's two different options there, and I can also create recipes for clients that are vegans, also vegetarians, octo-vegetarians, and also the meat eaters. So yeah, and the recipes are generally pretty easy to make and quite tasty, and you know, yeah, tastes good, and usually the family don't mind eating it as well. So that's even an added bonus if you are time poor and you want to use the recipes for the family as well. So take that into consideration. And this is my last slide today, and I'm just offering $30 off your initial consultation if you're wanting to make an appointment to see me and to get started on your healing journey. Just scan the code there, and that'll take you through to my website, and then you can just book in and just pop in there that you've seen my webinar, and the $30, I'll take that off for you. And yeah, so I did actually have two questions last night, and one was to do with the exercise, and that was to do mainly with how important exercise is to, for your bone health, your cardio health, and that sort of thing. And if you're menstruating as well, to make sure that you're doing your exercises that are timed in with that, with your cycle. So like when you're having your period, you do lighter exercises, and you're building up to when, if you're ovulating or feel like there's ovulation happening, that's when you're doing your really intense workouts. And then sort of like in the luteal phase, you're doing more of your yoga and your Pilates and that sort of thing. So your boxing and your running and that sort of thing leading up, and then yeah, nice and gentle exercises going into the luteal phase. So I can actually pop that into one of the links and that for you if you're interested in that. And I also have a breakfast recipe book, ebook as well, that I will post separately as well. So I'd like to say thank you, and I will be doing part 2 of the perimenopause, menopause webinar in November. So it'll be another Thursday night, and I think that is about the 16th of November. So details will follow shortly with my advertising and all that sort of thing. So if you do have any questions from this webinar, please drop a comment or email me. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Okay, thank you.